Family, hi. Yes, so from the news, this is what we have.
Tonight, it's a time for choosing in Iran. There are now two clear options for this terrorist regime, the easy way and the hard way. Time is running out, and in truth, they have already lost. They have no cards to play, in spite of them trying to posture. In the end, the outcome will be the same. No nukes, no terrorism, no threats, and a fully open Strait of Hormuz. Simple and on the surface, but apparently very hard for radical Islamists indoctrinated into a death cult to accept. On Truth Social, President Trump issued this warning, quote, "We are offering a very fair, reasonable deal, and I hope they take it, because if they don't, the U.S. is going to knock out every single power plant, every single bridge in Iran. No more Mr. Nice Guy. They'll come down fast. They'll come down easy. And if they don't take the deal, it will be my honor to do what has to be done." President Trump wants Iran's regime to see that the writing is on the wall.
And for spiritual people who would like to understand why Trump is doing this, listen to what a renowned prophetic voice in America has to say, and that is Amanda Grace. Do check it out.
Hello, everyone. Amanda Grace here. So, breaking today between Iran and the United States of America. President Trump has now warned Iran he's going to, amid these rising tensions about the Strait of Hormuz. He told them, sign the deal or military strikes on their infrastructure will commence. Let me explain to you what he's doing here. President Trump is speaking the language of Ishmael to get them to understand his position. Genesis 16:12 says, Ishmael will be a wild donkey of a man. His hand will be against every man continually fighting, and every man's hand against him, and he will dwell in defiance of all of his brothers. The IRGC right now especially has stood up in defiance when it comes to the Strait of Hormuz. Ishmael is standing in defiance of all his brothers. And so in order to negotiate with Ishmael, you have to speak Ishmael's language. And if Ishmael is a wild donkey of a man, he's a wild man, then how do you negotiate with a wild man? You speak an even wilder tone than they, a more forceful tone than they, a hard line that you draw in order to get them to understand you mean business and you're actually crazy enough and sincere enough to do to them what you're warning them you're going to do. That is the negotiation when negotiating with Ishmael, because a wild man doesn't listen to please stop, please don't do that, could you please just put away your nuclear weapons? No, they only respond to force and someone that is willing to go beyond what they themselves are even willing to do. We are watching the language of Ishmael be spoken. Now, to prove this, the word Ishmael, Islam, is hidden in the name Ishmael. So if you put that in, Islam is a wild donkey of a man. His hand will be against every man and every man's hand against him. Look what's happening in the world right now. Look what's happening in the earth. Look at the defiance that's attempting to rise out of that. So President Trump's actually not crazy, and he really doesn't want to see this happen, but he's speaking the language of Ishmael right now to get Ishmael to understand that he means business in this when it comes to this deal. So continue to pray and be watchman right now. This is getting intense. We're literally watching the timeline of Passover that we have watched this all unfold over. We're watching that battle continue. So be the watchman right now. Keep the faith.
So kindly check her out. So that's the name of her channel over there. Please go over there, subscribe, and check out what she also has to say prophetically, and also teaches on some other topics. And moving on, we also have people who have been saying this.
The United States and Iran are going to fight. Squabbles is the word that I heard. Quarrels is another word that I hear.
So this is a video that most of you sent me saying that, she saw this in 2019. So we're just going to be watching it. And the reason I actually said this one, I don't normally check out her content because she calls almost every preacher a false preacher. But during these days, she was a bit humble, during the days of humble beginnings, she was a bit humble. So we'll just be listening to what she said back then in 2019.
So what I saw is that things moved from verbal to physical contact. And both of these roosters had a very high and impressive leap, so that no rooster had a clear win. And then all of a sudden, the conflict stopped. So just as suddenly as it started, escalating off of words, and then suddenly somebody struck a blow, just as quick as it started, it stopped. And so the feeling that I had watching this afterwards was that this would be like a sea fight, that this would be something will trigger this to do with the water, or if it's ships that they will have an upset about, I'm not sure, but it will be a sea fight, a water fight.
And, on this one, we cannot argue because there's this issue that has to do with the Strait of Hormuz. It has to do with ships. It has to do with water. So on this one, there's nothing that I can actually say is wrong.
But it will be a sea fight, a water fight. And the Lord said that blood will flow on both sides. But what this will cost America is actually in terms of shock. So her warmongering side will be shocked that Iran will actually step up. Because this is what I saw, that the Persians were fearless. They did not have fear. In fact, they had a fierce determination not to be beaten, not to be sidelined or disrespected any longer. So the true cost that America paid was the lack of fear in her enemy. And the thing is, because she's always perceived as untouchable, because Iran touched her, this shocked everyone, showed everyone that she was touchable. I saw that after the fight, Vladimir Putin was one of the first people to make contact with Iran and congratulate her on bravery. So there was no clear outcome in the battle, but in terms of points gained, in terms of bragging rights, Iran was the clear winner.
So this is what she actually said back in June 2019 and all that. And, we'll be back to share with you whether this prophecy has come to pass and whether it hasn't. But some of the things, I can't say they are lies because it talked about water. That is what is actually happening with the Strait of Hormuz and all that. But as for whether Iran will win the war and all that, this is totally opposite to what other reputable prophetic voices have been saying. All right. And also moving on to what other prophetic voices have been saying, especially from Africa. This old prophecy I also saw, I believe from Prophet Helvin in Ghana. This is what he said is going to happen, especially with this war.
It was a journey of over 17 good years.
Okay.
And the 17 years is when it closed. So World War III begins this year. But we were never part of it. Yeah, Africa, we were not part of it. No, we were fine. World War III will begin this year. There will be a new invasion. Once the next invasion comes in, there are three fronts of the warfare. Middle East, Asia, Russia. Three different invasions. Once those three things are fully done, the World War III begins. The journey starts from there. And once the journey starts from there, in a short period of time, when they are changing the American presidents, Trump will be dead. Not that somebody killed him. He died in his own time. Within that same time was when bombs were flying.
So this man of God is actually saying this thing will, go on for 17 years. It won't affect those in Africa, but will mainly affect those in, he said Asia, and he talked about Russia, and he talked about, the Middle East. So this was before America and Israel actually took out the ayatollah, So this is very interesting. And he's saying that it will continue even until Trump passes away. And he's also saying that Trump will pass away in his own time. And he's not talking about an assassination or of Trump being assassinated. I actually found it very interesting because we heard other prophetic voices actually saying that Trump is going to be assassinated. So I found it very, very interesting. Okay, moving on. We also have Brother Brandon, who had this to say about some of these things which are happening.
And I even told you all where it was when we were interceding. It's underneath the ground. This stuff to make a nuclear device is deep underneath the ground. I see one that they have perfected that they want to use on Israel. They have saved this thing for Israel, and it has the payload capacity of a Hiroshima.
So my family, if in fact these things are really true, you really need to pray for Israel, takes me back to what Prophet Telvin actually said. He said that he saw the historical sites of Israel and some of those other stuffs. He said that Israel was obliterated by Iran. I'm not saying it's true, but I'm just saying we just need to pray.
To take out Israel. Pray for the intelligence that they're receiving to be accurate. I saw different reports that were different things of saying it's here, but there was only one that was accurate. And the Lord said, pray for accuracy, that they would hear it, because it will cost people their lives. And I saw them going into a booby trap. Okay? So we continue to pray, because this is what the Lord showed us ahead of time before the news got it.
Iran has been lying about its nuclear weapons effort for over 20 years now. They have always claimed our program was 100% peaceful. We were never pursuing nuclear weapons. That's a lie. And then once the international inspectors got in and started finding some things out, the Iranians kept lying to them.
This is why the president wants to do a deal that's much stricter than Barack's, much. This is why his negotiating position seems so all or nothing. Give us the yellow cake or go back to the Stone Age.
Remember, maybe we will see America become the oil capital of the world, and Strait of Hormuz becoming obsolete because of Iran's oil facilities completely annihilated. And Venezuela oil will be used by America, and then Cuba is next.
One thing I love about this community, our community here on this channel, is that people ask a lot of reasonable questions, Christians, not just critics, people who just visit and criticize. They ask questions like, okay, you've been giving us all these prophecies saying this will happen and this will happen, but what about the negotiations that are actually happening? What is the outcome? Here's what Brother Brendan has to say.
I see a deal is really close to being reached. They don't want the infrastructure struck. But I see two stubborn people. They were coming to an agreement, and he hardened Pharaoh's heart. Remember this. It's about liberating because of what they've done. Key facilities, key oil infrastructures, key things. It's about revival that's about to break out in Iran.
And concerning what we are to expect next, this is what he also saw.
They're positioning themselves to use bigger stuff, but it's for the underground.
Here he's talking about America, I believe.
Can we get it under the ground if we use bigger stuff? What if we drop bunches of this on top of it? Making it radioactive so that you can't use the site. Uninhabitable in that area. To make it impossible to go back in there. To make the mountain uninhabitable. That's what they're arguing about. You hear me? I hear it.
The president knows that strikes won't be enough. That means the U.S. military is going to have to either go in under enemy fire and go deep and deal with the uranium, or we do a deal and go down deep with the enemy. And here's Central Command's former deputy commander. Listen.
It's high risk. You have to occupy territory. You have to confront. You have to force your way in. So all those risks are inherent in that operation. But we can do it. The most prevalent threat is their abilities then to respond with drones, kinetic drones, maybe whatever's left in their inventory of missiles. That's your real threat to your time on the ground in the force.
Would you expect casualties in an operation like this?
Sure. You have to plan for that.
The president's acknowledged the chance of casualties, but would much rather do a deal.
And concerning whether the U.S. is going to be successful in Iran, this is what Brother Brendan said. He actually prophetically said, whatever they are planning and they execute it, it will work.
I hear it, but it will work.
So my family, all we'll do is wait and see. But the most important thing, especially why we share some of these videos, is so that you pray, for the Iranian people, so that there is free course, for the gospel, for the word of God, for there to be ease, in which the word of God can be preached. Areas like those, territories like those, they don't permit the preaching of the gospel. So if this, regime is dethroned and all that, it will be a major benefit to the kingdom. It will be easier for people to go there and preach the word, salvation of souls. That's our most important concern. So I'll meet you in the next one as always. What do you think about all this? Like, share, comment, and subscribe. God bless you.